In 1967, the Sachsenring was still behind the Iron Curtain in East Germany. But a lot has changed since then between the reunification of Germany as well as the transformation of the track from a deadly street course to a modern, purpose-built racing facility. And that's where we're facing off today as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The Sachsenring is modern day is much smaller and shorter, but it's still spectacular. Let's take a closer look at it with a track guide. Welcome to the Sachsenring. This former street course is one of the easternmost tracks in Germany, about an hour from the border. The modern 13-turn layout is only 3.6 kilometers, or just over 2 miles in length. But while that might sound paltry in comparison to the old 5-mile-long track on public roads, they pack a lot into this thing. The lap opens with a series of long, sweeping turns, including the Omega, which, from above, makes its nomenclature obvious. The challenge of its never-ending nature flows right into Sternquelle. The multiple, sometimes blind apexes through this section are going to be critically important since this is where the track finally starts to open up. A whopping 6 left-handers in a row are all supremely fast, but they culminate in the waterfall, leading you down into the Sachsen curve. The combination of that and the final turn of Queckenberg might offer chances to overtake, but it'll be tricky. Ideally, you'll want to set it up for the run down into turn 1 at Coca-Cola for the more ideal place to pass. Easily most known for motorcycle racing and DTM, this place is perfect for everything from GT3 class cars on down to slower touring cars and open wheelers. Drivers will often wind up dueling side by side with the constant switching back and forth in the first few corners. The gorgeous German hillsides will no doubt bring in the fans to this fantastic, nearly century-old venue. Well, it's a brand new circuit for these drivers to tackle, and Joey, it's going to be a twisty one.
It will be a twisty one. We're here at the Sachsenring, 2.26 miles in length, and call it 13 turns in total here. A couple decent passing opportunities. Coca-Cola curve, turn number 1 is probably your best, given that it's off of that long front straightaway. But look at Sector 1. Like you said, Joe, it is so tight and twisty through there. And with these Lotus 49 cars, you have to be very delicate on both the steering and those throttle and brake inputs to keep the car on the racetrack. Sector 2 definitely starts to open up a little bit. Call it from turn 8 all the way through turn 11. We've gone from those slow speed corners much more to the medium to high speed corners. And then the 2 turns to close out the lap in Sector 3, turns number 12 and 13. They look straightforward. Turn 13 looks like a 90-degree corner, but you got to keep all 4 wheels on the concrete.
Indeed, and it's got a little elevation change in it too, so that will make life interesting for the drivers without any downforce on these machines. Now, as for the championship, it is still Valenteus leading now that he's taken 3 straight wins, but it's only by 13 points over Mick Claridge. He's been holding on. Again, he's the only driver that has finished on the podium in every single race, and that consistency is keeping him in the conversation. Nieva, strangely, started out extremely strong and has actually had worse results each progressive race. So that's why he's all the way back at 31 points back, but still sitting in the 3rd position. From there, as you'd expect, things start to tighten up, especially look at Verbruggen and Gary Ho, a single point separating those two, along with Hisada, Tixier, and Clapper. Only 2 points between 3 drivers down at the bottom of our top 10. But that's just the F1 standings. We also have an F2 championship.
Absolutely right. That F2 points championship only separated by the driver's iRating. And right now, Jem Matson is leading the way handily by 19 points. But then look at how close it is between the next 4 drivers. Only 6 points separating these guys. Jonathan Jordan, Roberto Pengrazi, Alan Graham, Tobias Harnby, all inside the top 5. And then a little bit of a gap back to our next battle. Ben Summers versus Mitch Heller out there, and only a single point separating Mitch and Thomas Willershausen. Tomas Tuba as well as Andres Bruno all hanging out right there inside the top 10. Once again, only a single point or 2 separating really the 5th through 10th place positions.
And they also hold a Nations Cup here in this series, and Lithuania is leading because of Valenteus up there. United Kingdom following behind with Spain, only 3 points behind them. From there, check out Singapore, Italy, United States, Netherlands, Japan, all of them pretty close together, about 30 points between those 4 countries. And then you've got Germany and Finland tied for 9th and 10th. Real quick, why don't we familiarize our audience, Joey, with what today's race will have in store?
Yeah, well, it is round number 5 of 12 here this season. 25 laps around the Sachsenring. An open setup as it always is here on the Vintage Series. No spare car, so if you go running into your competitors or a wall and pick up damage, you're going to have to deal with it out there on the racetrack with the car that's not driving properly. And drive through at 17 incident points, disqualification at 25 incident points. This is a brand new track out here for this series that I know of, so I think it's going to be interesting to see how busy it's going to race. There's already a lot of chat that it's going to be pretty much like an interstate out there.
Yeah, I have to imagine that with as many drivers that we have today, it's going to get busy with the lap traffic pretty quickly out there, and they are in the midst of our qualifying currently. And have we had our first times on the board yet? Doesn't look like it. So we're still waiting for drivers to put one down to really see what the lap times are going to look like. Togo Hisada out there looking like he's coming towards the end of this lap, or actually more like looks like he's in the middle. Yeah, this is coming around in that fast series of left-hand sweepers, something like 5 corners in a row that are all left-handers, Joey.
I'm looking at it on the track map, and you come out at turn 3, which is probably the slowest corner on the racetrack, and then you have turn 4, left-hander, turn 5, left-hander, turn 6, left, turn 7, left, turn 8, 9, 10, all left-handers before you finally get to turn number 11. So it'll be interesting. You're going to have your, call it your NASCAR setup on.
That's a good way of thinking of it, for sure. And as our first times come across, Mick Claridge actually up at the top. But Valenteus has not set a time yet. In fact, I'm not seeing him out on the track, so he's given it plenty of time. The laps are relatively short, so he can wait quite a bit before he needs to get out on the circuit. But again, they don't get to complete their hot laps with this style of qualifying, so you can't wait forever out here to get that last one going. Jorge Nieva showing a black flag for some reason. So he's going to have to pause and restart his qualifying. That's interesting. What is that going to do for him if he can't set a time?
Watching Mick Claridge here on the screen. I think it's so incredible when you got Togo Hisada, your provisional pole sitter, Joe, as car number 6 here today. There's an incredibly stacked field.
Yeah, and Togo is usually pretty good at this qualifying. He hasn't been great lately. He's been kind of messing it up, but he seems to have it in order today on his first lap. He's running around on his second one, seeing if he can stay ahead of Mick Claridge, who just crosses the timing line, and it's a 22 flat. That does not take Mick back up to the top. It's Nicola Kaki who goes quicker out there, and Hisada is just now coming around out of the waterfall and through Saxon Curve into Kveckenberg.
I love also what I'm seeing. Look at timing and scoring. Our top 3 competitors separated by less than 8/100ths of a second so far. Let's see what Togo Hisada can do here. Up to the top, your new provisional pole sitter, the 121.5, spanks the competition by over a quarter of a second.
Yeah, wow, that is a pretty big gap considering how short the laps are here. So nicely done by the number 6. Seb Tixier still on his second lap. He's someone who could use a little bit better qualifying because that has been his bugbear all season long. Leo Sequeiro coming around into that last Kveckenberg turn. Big rise coming out of there, as you can see, up the hill. And then you cross the timing line early. Seb Tixier, by the way, a 122.222 is able to jump up into 6th. Leo Sequeiro will be good enough for 11th.
It's going to be very interesting to see how both this driver, Jorge Nieva, as well as Andreas Valenteus, who is yet to put down a lap time, I'm going to see where they kind of mix into the field. I'm a little bit less worried about the number 1 car. Nieva with that black flag usually means that you kind of run outside of track limits and it kind of invalidates the lap time. You just got to keep an eye on that when it comes to the race as well.
That's for sure. Yeah, we got to remember that they do have an incident limit here. And with it being so twisty and some of this paved runoff, that could be easy to rack those up at this track. Heike 360 is coming around for his second time. This is into that final corner. You can see the car squirming under braking as he tries to get it to turn in. Let's see if he improves on this 23.4. He does. 22.8, but that's only good enough for 15th. Jumps up just a couple spots.
See who else is here to qualify. I'm still noticing Andreas Valenteus has not put down a lap yet, and you see a minute 30 left. He is only going to have time to put down 1 complete timed lap. Can he do it when the pressure is on?
Interesting. Not sure if this is self-imposed or if he had some sort of technical issue he needed to take care of as we ride on board. It really gives you a sense of just how twisty it is, especially in these cars where you're sitting so low in them. A lot of rises around here. I'm noticing that the drivers probably have a hard time seeing what's coming in front of them.
I noticed the elevation as well, and I think that can be tricky, especially when you're trying to pick out those visual points that you need for driving, right? You need to be able to kind of see where you turn in the car after you really hit that initial steering input, so that way you can see the backside of those apexes, and you really get a good sense of all of the elevation that's here at the Sachsenring, riding on board this number 1 car's shoulder.
All right, what's the time going to be? This is his lone lap that's going to count, if it does count. If he's outside the boundaries, it's going to be a lot harder for him to take another 4th straight win. And where will this put him in the end? Their target is a 21.5. He'll cross the line. 21.8. That's good enough for 3rd, but it's not another pole for Valenteus.
Very, very interesting out here. And we always know that he does such a great job in the race itself, so I don't think it's over. Let's see if Jorge Nieva can vault himself up. He's all the way down in 31st position, and he just barely sneaks it in up into 5th.
Nice, right at the last moment. He needed that one. That was close. That has set our grid, and it puts Togo Hisada, rather, on the pole position next to Nikola Kaki. That's going to be a fun fight between these two coming back at each other. Andreas Valenteus starts in 3rd today with Kevin Verbruggen. Good enough for 4th. Again, just leaps and bounds. He improves every time we see him. Jorge Nieva starts from 5th, and Mick Claridge down in 6th today. A bit low for him, to be honest. Ove Trangrade 7th. Seb Tixier a bit better in 8th today, with Bill Tyler starting 9th and Steve Morris rounding out your top 10.
In 11th, we've got Gary Ho. Next to him is going to be Mitch Heller in 12th. Leo Sequeiro starting 13th. Aku Liski back here in 14th, with Laust Olsen starting in 15th. Jim Matson 16th. Xavier Sanchez 17th. John Olsen 18th. Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado starting from 19th. And Arnold Cook rounding out your top 20.
Jan Steffen starts 21st, followed by Kevin Parrish in 22nd. Then it's David Rossi in P23. Jack David Spickett all the way down in 24th for him. Josephine Becker will be 25th. Then you've got Matthew Maudsley on the outside of that one, with Tobias Harnvey in 27th. Johannes Brouwer will start 28th. We're not even done yet. We've got Jonathan Jourdain 29th and David Miller 30th.
Even more, 31st, Kurt Clapper. Cam Porter back here in 32nd. Dominic Hosworth in 33rd. Paul Ferrer in 34th. Tomas Tuba in 35th. Jason Clapper 36th. Mats Lind in 37th. And 38 cars is going to be Thomas Willershausen.
Compared to last week, we do not have a split, so everybody in together in one, which means a slightly bigger field. Not that much bigger than what we saw the previous week. Let's see how they handle it, as it looks like the lights are now up. The engines begin to rev for round 5, and the green flag is out. Oh, did not go, did Nikola Kaki. In fact, cars are having to dodge around him. He was so slow off the line. Mick Claridge with a great start up to 4th, but same thing with Valenteus, who tries to take it around the outside of Coca-Cola, which is going to give him the inside of turn 2, but it's going to be on the wrong side of the Omega, one of the longest turns on the schedule.
look at the field stream through this first sector. I can report that Leo Sequeiro spun all by himself in turn number 1. He's going to have to dig himself out of a hole, but here comes the number 1 car. On the inside, Valenteus is already looking for the lead. Togo Asada and him are neck and neck.
He's been hanging next to him pretty much this entire starting lap, but he finally has to give way. Togo using that outside line to get the throttle down. We saw that back at Barcelona. That was a strategy. Look at this battle for third. Mick Claridge being brave on the first lap, knowing passing is going to be at a premium. Unfortunately, he's going to get past as Seb Tixier snuck by. And we got another battle. Here comes Valenteus back at it again.
He just threw it down the inside. Now Togo Hisada is going to do it himself. Mick Claridge had problems back there, I believe, with Kevin Verbruggen, but we're almost 3 wide. Nieva's showing the nose down to the inside of Togo Hisada, but now it's Togo that puts the power down, trying to rival Andreas Valenteus on the inside.
Andreas aggressive on this first lap, but so is Togo. He comes back at him, and it's a drag race down into turn 1. He's going to have his nose ahead coming up to the braking marker, but coming back at him, Valenteus sending it in deep, almost exactly like we saw in lap 1. Jorge Nieva watching from the popcorn position, wondering, how can I pick up the pieces from this?
And if Togo can stay on the inside right here, he might be able to survive. But once again, Andreas just really carrying the momentum on the top side, almost racing like a NASCAR track where if you're up top, kind of in the middle of the corner, you can carry more momentum and be able to put the throttle down.
And that's exactly what he did last lap. It allowed him this time to stay much farther alongside. And here comes those many left-handers in a row down through Kartalen and into the various kinks here on the back half of the course. That's going to get him back in the top spot, but he pinches off the exit, and Togo comes back at him. They're starting to bottle up behind them. Look at this. This is ridiculous.
It was just a lap ago that Mick Claridge and company pretty much took out the rest of the field, and Nieva almost trips over Togo Hisada himself, and you're right, Nikola Kaki, who is just kind of a rock on the start, is now sitting there in 4th, and I believe that was Verbruggen that just overtook Nikola there for 4th place, so things are getting busy.
It is indeed. I mean, this goes well back. I don't think we have a gap behind them. It's stacking up almost the entire field behind them. Essentially, Nieva gets back into 2nd, Hisada into 3rd. Verbruggen, you mentioned him. He managed to get into 4th. He's going to look for that 3rd position, sending it down to the inside of Coca-Cola, and he just about has it. But I'm surprised that the outside line on some of these turns is working as well as it is.
I'm going to agree with you there. I think typically, you can hang on the outside, but you can't be able to put the power down. But here, how this racetrack is racing, it almost seems like the middle of the track, if you are side by side, is actually where you want to be, because you can actually get to the throttle without kind of skating out to the outside.
All right, they go single file. Finally, it's Valenteus, Nieva, Verbruggen, Hisada, and Kaki. That's your order for the top 5 right now. We'll see how long it stays like that for a track that we thought there wouldn't be much passing. There was a heck of a lot of it in the starting laps here.
I just want to echo something. Cam Porter, now we usually talk to him towards the end of the race. He picked up 10 positions on the opening lap. He's +9 right now in 23rd, but you had mentioned how stacked up the entire front of the field is. I think I see our top 15 right now. There's only about a 10th or 2 separating each one of the cars.
This is Salgado in the midst of a quartet, as that's John Olsen, Mitch Heller, then Marco, then JDS. JDS gets a great run coming off the corner, is going to try to get to the inside as Marco does not defend. Tries to bring it out to the racing line to open up that first turn. This is a long hairpin, this one, and it is not quite going to work out for him as JDS sneaks through.
Sector 1 is a little interesting. You got 2 very long right-hand corners, and I want to go back to the point that you had made about the middle groove as we watch this replay here. What happens to Seb Tixier? Oh, that was the car that made contact with Mick Claridge on the opening lap. So the woes this season continue for Tixier.
Don't know what ladder that he walked under or black cat he allowed cross his path, but it's just been atrocious, all the stuff that keeps happening to poor Seb.
I think maybe he might need to put your face on the car, too.
All right, we'll see if we can get him to do that to help improve his situation as we come back to the battle for fourth place. Togo Hisada starting from the front row down to P4 and now having to play defense because his cohort joining him on the front row is still behind him, Nicola Kaki.
Interesting how they've both kind of fell down through the order, but they're kind of still up in that upper group right there as we check back in on Mick Claridge. He's trying to dig himself out of that hole that we just watched the replay of between himself and Seb Tixier. Directly in front is Ove Trengrade in that black and orange number 9 car. See if he's able to make a move on Aku Liski, who's having a terrific run himself, up 5 positions. This is all battling for what is a top 10.
Essentially, yeah. And down into the Omega, they plunge. You can see just how much elevation change there is through here. And this is a right-hander that just keeps going and going and going until they finally empty out into a series of left-handers. And Aku is using that racing line to great effect. This is more like we thought it would be, where drivers will be stuck single file with no place to go.
Look at the run, though, that I think it's Trengrade just all over the back of Liski, and that's that white and blue number 20 car. Now Ove gets to the inside, but that was a pretty tense moment. It's such a fast turn through that, call it 9-10 complex, that if you don't have your car all the way up alongside already, it can be a little bit of a dangerous look, and that's exactly what Trengrade thought as well. He backed out of it, constantly showing the car. Now he presents it, slides up, makes a little bit of contact. Watch out for Mick Claridge. He's going to get 2 for 1.
Yeah, Mick is too wise for that. As soon as he saw it happening, he shoved the car down to the apex, and he gets those positions, but for how long? Ove's going to try and come back at him. He may have made a mistake before, but he can maybe make up for it down into turn 1. He's going to be on the wrong side of the circuit. Mick defends, holds that inside line, and no, it looks like Ove cannot hang.
Car setup is still a question mark here, right? I look at a lot of these corners, and especially at the front half of this racetrack, it's all stop and start, right? You need to have the car be able to roll, but most importantly, you need to be able to get on the throttle to drive out of these slow corners. But then the back half of the racetrack is totally different with these fast sweepers that we're really about to approach right here on screen. See how the track really opens up, and the speeds definitely start to come up. I bet you car setup is still a little bit of a question mark right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's going to be kind of what works best for you comfort-wise on at least one half of the track. Checking in with Seb Tixier. He's managed to get back to 21st at least, but he's got a lot of work to do once again. Up in front of him, that's Arnold Cook there in the 32 car.
Cool getting the inside shots, and it was neat. Seb put a little piece of information in our GSRC chat the other week that himself and Gary Ho are pretty much neighbors over there. That's why they've got almost identical sim rigs, both with the same wheels, same motion setup, same VR. It is so cool to have almost a best buddy neighbor that you can hit up and be like, hey, let's go do some laps.
I mean, probably works great for parts too, right?
Yeah, totally.
So hopefully they don't have to rely on that. You mentioned Cam Porter a little bit earlier. He's trying to make some moves on Jason Clapper. And, well, no, the reverse. Clapper's making moves on him as he takes 23rd away from the 22 car.
Jason always, usually our biggest mover, never qualifies, so he always starts at the back and then gains the most amount of positions. But like I said, Cam Porter had a terrific start, had an awesome opening lap, was up plus 10 positions. Now he's up plus 8 positions as he kind of settles into the rhythm right now. Don't look back because he's got about 4 or 5 hungry cars that are chasing him.
That's a good point. It's starting to look a little bit intimidating in the mirror, no doubt. Brower in there, Sequeiro, Stefan, Rossi, all lined up. And we've got a replay on Laust Olsen, what looks like early in the race here. Didn't catch this one, so I'm watching to see what exactly happened to poor Laust. Did he also get tangled up? Yes, indeed he did. And starts to slide, couldn't save it in time, gets a little bit of a tip, but is able to keep going.
Was that also on the front of Mick Claridge? Do we need to get Mick Claridge into the principal's office?
We might. I mean, it looked like his car, but I mean, it was mostly plain red, so it could have been somebody else. Not entirely sure. We'll try and check on that a little later to confirm who that was. As Kevin Verbruggen up into third, he gets by Togo Hisada now, Kevin looking for some excellent points. He managed to get himself onto the podium recently, so what can he do to repeat that?
And having terrific race pace. If I'm looking at timing and scoring, fast lap of a 21.8. The only person faster is our leader at a 21.7. And here is that pan situation. Gary Ho in the identical rig.
All the way down to the steering wheel. See, takes it through the mini left-handers, and then I love this section. They call it the waterfall, and for obvious reasons. Look at the plunge way downhill, and then you have the braking into the Saxon curve as a little bit of dicing there with Ove Trangerade.
If he can put the power down. It was actually Gary that drifted out just a little bit wide. It kind of compromised his exit just that little bit, and I was watching Ove Trangerade, the car directly in front of Gary that's got the purple helmet, and I think that he's done such a good job at either car setup or his driving style of squaring off the back end of the corner and really launching out of the thing. That's where he is making the most speed in that black and orange number 9 car.
Ove is a bit notorious for liking a loose car and tends to slide it around a lot. I think the only other driver that competes with him for having a loose car is Togo Hisada, who's had some crazy drifting moments over the years. Back in the back, David Rossi in quite a battle that leaves him, unfortunately, off and in the gravel. So he loses those 2 places in the process. Ove Trangerade sitting in 9th, but will Gary Ho be able to change that as we check in with Mick Claridge, back up to 7th so far, but has a ways to go to catch Bill Tyler in 6th.
I think that the number 19 of Steve Maurice actually just kind of let Mick Claridge by on that little mini short shoot straightaway. Realized that red number 3 car had a little bit more pace and just kind of let him on through. Now Trangerade dives down to the inside once again, makes just the slightest bit of tire-to-tire contact. No harm, no foul. I'm sure Ove was like, what, you're going to let Mick by, but not me?
Yeah, I mean, Ove might have to go to the principal's office as well, because we've seen him have some aggressive moments out there. That's going to gift him 8th place behind Mick Claridge. He wants to keep up with his longtime rival, as Steve Maurice is going to be wheel-to-wheel with Gary Ho round the outside. Again, we've seen this work out sometimes, but not quite this time. Steve able to cut back to the racing line.
Just keep applying the pressure, right? If you're Gary Ho, that gets a little bit wide there in turn number 2, I believe. I'm sorry, that's turn number 3. Kind of, once again, halts the momentum. So if I'm seeing maybe one driving characteristic out of this purple number 12, sometimes you actually have to drive slower to go faster. And what I mean by that is don't overdrive the car. When you overdrive the car, you induce slides, you induce lockups, you don't get the power down coming out. So sometimes you have to take that deep breath, relax, and actually drive slower, and all of a sudden the car starts to go forward more.
See, saw Gary Ho with a nice slide there coming out of the 8, 9, 10 section, switching back through the waterfall. He's under threat with Xavier Sanchez. Oh, and he goes a little too wide. Sanchez is passed into 10th.
And crucially, though, he does not pick up any sort of slowdown, but I think that's the little mental reset that he was looking for, is Nikola Kaki challenging Togo Hisada now. Remember, you were mentioning that Verbruggen had gotten by Hisada. Now a lunge from the green helmet of Nikola down to the inside of turn number 1. Togo's going to try to do an over-under, but not going to be there.
Qualifying pace is there, but the race pace seems to be a miss today for both Nikola and Togo. They've dropped off of our leader by about 4 seconds as it stands right now. Climbing back up the hill and all through the various left-handers, Sternkvel into Kartalen as they come down the hill, and it is going to be Verbruggen leading ahead of Nikola Kaki, ahead of Hisada.
Yeah, 2.5 seconds, though, is what Nikola has got to make up before he even gets to that podium fight of Kevin Verbruggen. So I'm sure that he's trying to put some cardboard cutouts over his rear view mirrors right now to block out the view of Togo Hisada applying that pressure. Just ignore everything behind, focus forward, and see if he can go catch a podium.
Exactly. Well, not just even third. Verbruggen's close to Nieva in front of them. They're not quite battling right now, but Kevin could see himself jumping up into second, which would be his best finish of the season if he can manage that. So what's happened with John Olsen now? Oh, tangles a little bit after he had his battle with Seb Tixier. Unfortunately, finds himself just losing what looks to be about 4 or 5 spots in one go.
Unfortunate there for that number 14 car, but this battle that we're watching on screen still continues to rage on. And I was curious, I'm looking at my side of things, and yeah, certainly enough, with these two actually fighting, you see that white and blue car that's just kind of giving chase right now. That's Bill Tyler. Bill's last lap, call it 4/10 faster than Togo Hisada. So if these two continue to fight, that's naturally going to mean that Bill Tyler's going to continue to close that gap.
Get top 5 on the cards for the number 11 car. We'll see. Back up the hill we go as they pick up speed, heading towards a blind crest as well. We're going to check in with Ove Trangerade versus Mick Claridge. Claridge leads for the time being. Ove is going to want to try and change that. And you can see the damage on the front of Mick Claridge's car after the contact. We go side by side for second place. Nieva versus Verbruggen round the outside for Kevin. Nieva will try and block off that inside line, cut back from the number 5, and that gives him a decent launch, but the wrong side of the track.
And Nieva was a little bit cheeky there coming out of turn number 13, didn't even go all the way to the exit curb, and now Verbruggen is very deep, a little bit too wide there in turn number 1, so Nieva keeps that second place position. But I think what has interested my brain over here is just look at the pace, look at the rolling speed that Kevin Verbruggen has. I wonder if he gets in front of Nieva, can he go challenge Valenteus? I think he can.
To your credit, he's only 2.5 seconds back, and we're on lap 13 out of 25. So yeah, that's definitely doable if he really does have the pace and is being held up. Unless Valenteus is just managing things up there at this stage and isn't really going full tilt, I think this could be a battle for the win, a potential first win for Kevin Verbruggen. He said when we talked to him back in Austria that that's kind of his next goal.
And with it being call it a new track here for this series, it's the perfect opportunity, you know, depending on what motorsport you follow. If you follow Formula One, you look at rain as the great equalizer, right? If you go to NASCAR, you look at super speedways where really anybody's got a chance. But here in the sim world, I find that it's actually the new tracks, because if you don't have that knowledge base to fall back on, it's really anybody's game and who's done the practice.
Exactly. Could be some tricks in there, especially if you've raced it maybe on a different sim. That was too deep for Kevin that time. Car wanting to go around on him as he had to chase it completely around Coca-Cola.
2 laps in a row was a little bit too deep into turn number 1, and then really uses the rolling speed. This is turn 3, kind of down at the bottom of the hill, climb up out of it. This is 4. We're going to loop around to the 5 right here, and then it opens up down the hill into turn number 6. This is that constant left-hand circle that you never seem to get out of.
Oof, way out.
Where does this roundabout go?
Yeah. Somewhere is the exit, and it's going to be just about here. Big blind crest, and then one more little kink before now you've got to get set up for a very fast right-hander into the waterfall. Blind plunge across there. Don't go too wide off of it, and that was very well done for Nieva. He pulls himself out of range for a brief moment.
I like riding on board here because it really gives you the sense of speed and the elevation that this racetrack does provide. This, of course, is that final corner. Really trust in that incline, that compression in the car to be able to put the power down. But Verbruggen still chasing Nieva.
Well, like I said, it might not be the long and terrifying street course that it used to be, but this is definitely a fascinating replacement that they have built. It's been around since the mid-90s, I should say, so it's been this version for quite some time, although it has had a few adjustments in the interim to get it to this final state, but it certainly provides a serious challenge for these drivers. And speaking of a serious challenge, Kevin is absolutely hassling Jorge around every corner.
And the more laps that they kind of fight it out, the slimmer and slimmer that win possibility gets for Verbruggen. I think that Nieva's doing an excellent job hanging on to second place, just like the same way Nicola Kaki is doing. And excellent job to hang on to fourth ever since he got by Togo Asada. Looks like we're going to get a replay up here in the top of the screen. See what happens to Josephine Becker. This is in that long left-hander stage. This is exiting what is turn number 6 and then going down the hill to turn number 7.
Yeah, love seeing some of these mid-pack battles. We don't always get to see some of them, but glad that we can check in on those as we continue to follow the fight between Kaki and Hisada. I thought Togo had a good run out of the final corner, but it was not to be. Just wasn't quite close enough coming off of there as they plunge down back into the first corner. Once again, it is Kaki in fourth, Hisada in P5. Leo Sequeiro also in a nice fight. This is for 22nd back there.
Yeah, and that is live pictures up in the picture-in-picture screen. And you're right, that Leo Sequeiro made a huge move down the hill there. He's kind of digging himself out of that hole. Remember, he had that spin in turn number 1, lap number 1. So he's definitely going to be making a lot of passes today.
Quite the fight here between JDS, Aku. We've got Gary Ho in there, Mitch Heller, as well as Marco Salgado. 4 cars all in a train. Aku felt a little bit hard done by with a move that Ove Trangerade pulled on him earlier, but he's still running in 12th, which is up 2. So he hasn't lost position since the start. Just wonder if maybe there was a bit more. Whoa, big moment for Gary Ho. Look at the hands try and catch it as we watch the onboard. Thankfully did not reach the wall, but man, that was a costly mistake.
And you saw, I believe it was Liskey directly in front of him, almost did the same thing. They were both kind of opposite steering going down the hill, but definitely caught out Gary Ho. And Joe, it kind of fell into our lap. I wish that we could get full screen because guess what? Seb and Gary are next to each other right now. They look like twins.
As we come around, and it's a plunge down to the Omega once again. It is going to be Nicola Kaki who comes out ahead of Hisada. It was a good attempt, but he still can't seem to make that one stick. Back up they go, and into turns 4 and 5. Double left-hander, very difficult to spot your apexes through there. Look at Togo, though. I wonder if he's trying to open up the exit a little bit. If he did, I don't think it worked.
It's kind of a lunge and then have to give it up a little bit and then another little bit of a lunge. One thing that I do appreciate out of Togo Hisada's driving style is that if he doesn't feel like he's at 10/10ths, he will hang out kind of in the middle of the race and learn, right? Sometimes that can be your practice session. Then after a handful of laps, apply what you've learned. And that's exactly what I think Togo is doing right now.
Trying different things. And we saw that in Barcelona as well, that he was stuck in a battle and was trying kind of unique attempts at trying to make a pass because he knew it wasn't working. Josephine Becker in a nice little fight here. This is for 22nd. Jason Clapper in behind, up 13 so far. Oh, but we're checking in with Seb Tixier. Jim Matson side by side with him. That's Jim on the outside and carries the speed, but is balked at the apex. Can't quite manage to get back by. Gary Ho left behind by his twin.
Love watching the H pattern shifter too. There's all the downshifts all the way from 6th down to 3rd, and actually Tixier leaves a little bit of room there for Matson, who threw it up the inside, but Seb is going to be able to kind of hang on to 15th place position here, especially through what is turn number 3. Just take that nice easy way around right in the middle of the racetrack, focus on the exit, and start to drive away from those passes you just made.
This is somewhat reminiscent of the season that Seb came back and decided not to qualify and would often start from the back and try and race his way through the field, except this time it's not intentional. So he's just getting more racecraft practice as he's had to make a lot of passes this season. Sometimes, though, he hasn't even gotten the chance to make those passes as he's been wrecked out rather early.
Sorry, we got Togo Hisada turned around all by himself. He was wicked loose. He caught it a couple times, and now you see him getting back onto the racetrack. Already down to 8th. I think he's going to be about 9th or 10th. Actually, he'll hang on to 8th, right? Oh, no, another spin.
I wonder if something's wrong with the car. That was a bit unusual, so slow to have it come around on him. He'll get it going. But I wonder if there's
just
damage.
overheated. I think he overheated the tires, Joe, because I had mentioned he had this huge slide, caught it a couple times, and then when he finally spun it around, he stood on the gas, roasted them, and sometimes it can be difficult to bring those temperatures back down by the next corner.
That's a good point. While these tires do last a long time, they're pretty rock hard. You can overheat them. The drivers have said as much, and he's still dealing with those effects if that's the case as he goes way wide through the Omega.
I'm with you. So let's watch the replay. There's the huge loose moment. He catches it, putting out tire smoke. There's another catch, and then finally it goes around on corner exit. Doesn't quite stand on the gas, but then as he spun it around to get facing the right direction, that's, I believe, when he really overheated the tires. And then the very next corner, as we saw, did another kind of full spin. But he is back out on the racetrack, albeit down in 17th now.
Bit of commentator's curse on that one. As I had said, he had so many drifty moments out there. This one he did not catch, unfortunately. Josephine Becker versus Jason Clapper. Clapper manages to get by into 22nd now. He's got about 2 seconds to catch up to Arnold Cook and his traditional climb up through the field. So not impossible for him to get there within 6 laps, but he's going to need to hustle.
It's been cool watching this number 31. I feel like Becker's really been in the thick of it, right? It doesn't matter if it was kind of the first part of the race, the middle, or even here in the closing handful of laps. It seems like the race for this number 31 has been nonstop.
And that's going to be, unfortunately, another position gone, though. It looks like Josephine maybe facilitated that one. Maudsley goes through into 23rd. Still a good race for Josephine, up 1 from where they started. Kevin Verbruggen says still been putting pressure on Jorge Nieva in the meantime. This has been for P2. This time, though, it is about 4 seconds back from Audrius Valenteus, so even farther behind from what they were before as we check in with Laust Olsen in the upper right hand.
Get these awesome picture-in-picture shots here. Our leaders coming around the final corner here. See if Nieva does get an excellent corner exit there, so don't have to worry about Kevin going into turn number 1 this lap. And I don't want to take any wind out of any sails, but I mean, we have a lot of familiar names always up here at the front. But Joe, are we finally seeing the changing of the guard? Where's Togo Asada? Where's McClarridge? Where's Seb Tixier?
I think you're right. It's definitely looking like a few drivers are kind of picking up the torch this season. Nick Lakaki, definitely one of those that has come to the fore this time.
Verbruggen.
And yeah, Verbruggen is the big one that has just been making leaps and bounds every time we turn around with his second podium of the season. If he could bring it home, potentially even his best finish of the season, if he can somehow get by Jorge Nieva. But Nieva, to his credit, we often have talked in the past about he's one who just tries to get to the end of the race. He's been putting on a stout defense here.
He has, 100%. He's been able to hold Kevin Verbruggen back, and I do believe that Kevin might be the faster of the 2 cars here today, as we've got a 3-way fight back here for what is going to be the 22nd position, side by side between Becker and Maudsley. Remember, Maudsley had just gotten by Becker, but apparently that, call it blue, white, and orange number 31 still has plenty of fight left in him with 4 laps remaining.
And ahead of them, Arnold Cook in the yellow and green as well, making it a trio out there, all battling for 22nd. Another slip up and way wide at the first apex there for Arnold. He's wide at the second apex as well, but somehow does not lose the position. Now he's out of sorts, though. He's on the wrong racing line. Josephine try to go on the attack down into Saxon curve. It's a long left-hander, very difficult to pull the over-under here, and it's not going to happen.
I love watching the views from overhead as we get Togo Hisada going 3 wide into turn number 1. It's already past Gary Ho, who's had his fair share of issues as well, and now they're looking at Jem Matson. That's that black number 29 car. And check this out. We got another 3 wide going into turn number 1. This is the battle that we were just watching. Apparently, if you want to watch some action, go get out a lawn chair, stand at turn number 1.
Yeah, the place to be for sure, but Cook will hold on to the position. Kind of surprised. Becker was a nose ahead in the middle coming into the turn, but couldn't finish the job. Switching back now, looking to try and cut underneath through 4, 5, and down into 6, but no, balked at the exit by Arnold Cook. 4 laps to go. If this is what we've got in store, this is going to be a barnstorming finish.
I love the way that this place has been racing, right? It was kind of a question mark on what the style was going to be. We thought it was going to be so stop and start with it's only 2.2 miles, right? And 13 turns. It's relatively tight, but I think that the racing here has been fantastic.
I agree. I hope they put this back on the schedule. It has produced some really incredible moments out there, including Togo Hisada, who wishes he didn't have quite so many incredible moments because he's just trying to fight for 15th. Wow, look at the pinch from Matson. Keeps him down to the inside all the way to the grass, down to the apex. He was not giving him any quarter.
I feel like we just need a static camera on turn number 1 in our picture-in-picture shot, because this is that battle you were just commentating on, and Togo's finally going to complete the pass on Matson here, but it all started with another 3 wide going into turn number 1. That's the hot area.
Togo back into P15, and it's about 5 seconds up to Seb Tixier. Didn't think we'd be saying a battle for 14th between Seb and Togo by the end of this race, but that's where we sit today. Oh, did Verbruggen get by? He did. He managed to sneak through in the final corner on Nieva, who's now fighting back, coming down to the first turn. Here we go again, the action corner, and he's got the inside. He managed to stick his nose down there, but deep on the brakes. Kevin has been strong. No, too deep on the brakes, and he doesn't hold on.
He got suckered into the sucker hole, was Kevin Verbruggen. Nieva was nowhere near up alongside of him, and Kevin just didn't know where he was. He said, I need to take it as deep as possible. Went a little bit too deep in that brake zone, and Nieva made that easy pass because it was just simply a mistake from that light blue number 5 car.
Well, it was short-lived. If we go by the timing line, Kevin Verbruggen was scored in second place, but he lost at the very next corner. And he's going to have to do it all over again. They've got lap traffic behind them. That is David Miller, so that's not for position. Don't need to worry about that. And in fact, they do have Thomas Tuba up ahead as well. So we thought lap traffic would be an issue. It hasn't really, but it's starting to rear its head right at the end.
Typically in these 49 races, we do have that lap traffic, right? It may be a little bit surprising that we haven't seen it more up until these last couple laps of the race. I think it goes to show you how stacked this field is. Remember, Togo Hisada is carrying the number 6 board. Everybody in here extremely well-versed when it comes to that iRating. Oh boy, here we go. Nieva versus Verbruggen, 1 lap to go.
And the lapped car leaps out of the way, trying to give them the space. Great heads up there by Tuba, but it does not work out for Verbruggen. Was that the last good opportunity? Based on the passes we've seen here today, I don't think it necessarily is all she wrote. He's hanging right on that gearbox, knowing he could try and make him trip up.
And remember, where Kevin Verbruggen made that pass on Jorge Nieva was the very, very final corner, and he was able to sprint to the line. Watch out for that move again.
That's a good point. So that could be a good chance for him here if he sets himself upright. We might have to take the cameras away right at that moment because Valenteus will be finishing right at that time. And he is staying with him. He's putting himself in the right place. If he could just get the launch off of the Saxon curve, that could do it. Here we go. Great job by our director giving us both angles, because here comes Valenteus to the final corner. He is gonna take our win today for the first ever Grand Prix Legends race at the Sachsenring.
Crucially, Nieva defended the inside. Verbruggen's got to run directly on the tailpipe, but that start-finish line is so close. Nieva hangs on to second, Verbruggen finishing less than 1/10 of a second behind.
It was close, but no cigar at the end. Cocky will at least take a 4th place. Mick Claridge, where he started this one in 6th, but had to kind of muscle his way back into that position.
Seb Tixier going to narrowly get 13th place position. I think that he was hoping to get around Mitch Heller directly in front of him, but just kind of ran out of time a little bit at the end there.
Yeah, and as they come to the line, Gary Ho as well only 17th for him today. So that's going to hurt Singapore in the Nations Cup. Interestingly, I wonder if it's going to be the UK up at the front with Mick Claridge coming home with that 6th place, or actually Spain with Jorge Nieva would likely be our leader by the end of this one, with him coming home with that 2nd. David Rossi with a nice finish just behind Cam Porter, who at least is in the top quarter century.
Watch the rest of these cars come around and complete this race. This is Willershausen back here, going to end up with a top 30 result, up 8 positions. Remember, Thomas started all the way at the back of the field and will be one of the last cars. Here comes Kurt Clapper, 32nd on the board, and the last car to take that checkered flag.
Didn't have too many DNFs today, but up at the top of it, it was Andreas Valenteus making it 4 in a row now. He has put a stamp on this season. The only race he hasn't won is the opening round. Jorge Nieva will come home P2, so he's at least making gains again and is shot back up on his finishing order. Kevin Verbruggen with his 2nd podium of the season in 3rd, very close to a 2nd place. Nick Lakaki was P4 as Bill Tyler gets himself a top 5 after starting 9th. That was an excellent try from him. Mick Claridge was 6th. Ove Trangrade P7 was followed by Xavier Sanchez, going from 17th to 8th today. And then it was Steve Morrison 9th. And how about JDS 24th to 10th?
A great drive from typically the Lotus 79 guy without any downforce today in the 49s. And Akuliski back here, remember, we showed him quite a bit, and he had his hands full, finished 11th place. Mitch Heller back here in 12th. Seb Tixier with another race that he wants to put in the rear view, finishing in 13th. Marco Salgado back here in 14th. Togo Asada, another one of those drivers that wants to forget about the Sachsenring, finishing 15th. Matson 16th. Gary Ho with the mistake drops him back to 17th. John Olsen 18th. Leo Sequeiro with the lap number 1 spin 19th. Jason Clapper 20th. I'm seeing a trend here, Joe.
Yeah, a lot of drivers that kind of went the wrong direction. Kevin Parrish 21st, Josephine Becker 22nd, and then Matthew Maudsley 23rd. You've got Arnold Cook P24, followed by Cam Porter from 32nd to 25th, as David Rossi is behind him in P26, and you got Jan Steffen 27th, and Laust Olsen also going the wrong way, finishing 28th today. Brouwer 29th, and then Willershausen 30th. I'll just wrap these up as Harnvey and Clapper, Kurt Clapper, are the last 2 on the lead lap. Thomas Tuba, David Miller, Mats Linden, and Paul Ferrer all a lap down. Then you've got Jonathan Jourdain 2 laps down, and Dominic Hausworth, I believe, our only DNF today in the end. It looks like we've got our 2nd place finisher, Jorge Nieva, ready to talk to us. Let's see what he thinks about how this race went. Jorge, an improvement on the last few races, back up onto the podium. But my goodness, you had your hands full with Kevin that whole race, it looked like. Might not have Jorge mic'd up here. Let's see if we can get a copy with him. Jorge, this is Joe in the booth. Do you have a copy? Not sure that we've got Jorge with us, so we'll try and see if we can get him sorted out a little bit later. In the meantime, I think Joey is caught up with the man who was chasing him, Kevin Verbruggen.
Yeah, Kevin Verbruggen, first of all, congratulations on the 3rd place finish. That was a heck of a drive.
Yeah, that was a fun race. I don't know what happened in those first couple of laps, but yeah, Nicola had a slow start, and then Mick and Seb had incidents, and I got slowed up in both, so it was somewhere down the order, and somehow a couple of laps later I'm back at P3, I don't know how.
Well, and I really thought that when you kind of were right behind Nieva in the middle of the race, that you had a little bit more pace than him. Did you kind of feel the same way?
Yeah. At the start, at the start I was catching up to him. Then he made a couple of mistakes, and I managed to get alongside for a bit. But after that, he kind of got his head together and he drove away a little bit. But then, yeah, near the end of the race, we were fighting hard.
Well, and then talk to me about this racetrack. What do you think about the Sachsenring and these 49 cars? It raced a little bit differently than what I thought it was going to.
Yeah, it's a fun track. It's a very, very different from the normal GP style circuits. Like, there's yeah, how you say it? There's no time to calm down here. It's just corner after corner after corner, and some of you can still race in a fun way. So yeah, no, I really like it.
Oh, well, Kevin, I think that you've been doing a terrific job over the past couple seasons. You've really elevated your game and your skill set out here. You're fighting for podiums and wins. Keep up the good work. We're loving watching you out there. Is there anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, I want to thank the most of the community, the people who make setups. We all share tips and tricks and try each other's setups, and I think it's great that it's a great community.
Well, that was Kevin Verbruggen driving that baby blue number 5 car, constantly moving forward. Hopefully we're going to see him on the top step here soon.
It's feeling like it. Another driver that's won before, but it's been a while, is Nicola Kaki. He finished in P4 just behind Kevin today. Nicola, let's start at the beginning, though. What happened at the start of the race? You kind of went nowhere.
Yeah, guys, I knew you had like a many question, and I am with you because I have no answer. It's a method that everybody use when you have to start. You just use like the anti-stall clutch assist, and you keep the brake and the throttle at the same time. So when the light goes green, you just remove the brake and you go straight. It worked like all every time, and at any track, any condition, anywhere. But this time when I've done it, I was just like burning out the rear wheel, but standing still, and I never experienced anything like that. And as soon as I heard the tire spinning, I knew that I was having zero grip for the start. So I knew that I was very in a very big trouble, and I had no way to, I didn't have like the cold blood to open the radio and notify the problem to the other. But I was very lucky nobody crossed into my car. I had like an incredible bad start, because when you do burnouts, you have no grip to start the car, and I was very lucky to be able to catch with the leader pack again, because it's I wasn't expecting it to happen, to be honest.
Yeah, it is kind of impressive that you managed to get back up with them. It was a wild start to this race. We didn't expect this track to race this well. Did you know coming in that there would be so much action out there?
No, I only know this track because of MotoGP, and I know that Marc Marquez is here is like unbeatable, and I knew that there was like a very, I would say like very emotional like corner, which is the waterfall. I think it's corner 11, something like that. And the first time I drove here with the 49, it was amazing. I think this car fits so good with all the track that fits MotoGP motorcycles, which is almost like a multiverse version of a MotoGP with 4 wheels. It's so amazing, because you have so many similarities with the MotoGP bikes. Low grip, doesn't want to turn, incredible power, not very good brakes, and it's just I think we should just follow the MotoGP calendar and just like stick with it.
I think that sounds like a good idea, because it does seem to kind of work when you think about it. So a 4th place here. We mentioned that it feels like there's a bit of a change into the guard this season. Does it feel like that out on the track as well, that there's slightly different faces up at the front compared to what we've had in recent seasons?
Yeah, but I think it's always happening, a little bit at least, but this time maybe, you're right. There is like some bigger change that we are used to. I can speak for myself. Like the first few races has been horrible, because I had many technical issue with my rig, and I have for some tracks I had very little practice, and I've been like kind of lucky in a couple of them. So I think that's it's already done for me this season, because I already like been at least 4 races. But you know what I think about this. I don't really race for like the points of the championship. It's just like a very fun. It's a very fun thing to do. It's a very fun hobby, and I think that anybody that likes racing, driving should at least try this, because it's such a good thing to have. And this with this community, this group of guys, it's just great.
It is fun to watch. Well, thank you for talking with us, Nicola, and hopefully we'll get some more chances to chat with you this season.
Yeah, sure. I hope so. And I guess I will focus for next season, I guess. So see you guys.
That was Nicola Kaki finishing P4 today. It looks like we might get another opportunity to try Jorge Nieva here. Let's give this one more shot. Jorge, do you have a copy?
Yes, I hear you now.
There we go. Now we got you. Talk about that battle with Kevin. It seemed like he kept you busy all race long.
Yeah, he's been really fast all week, and he was faster than me today also. And I know this track is really difficult to overtake, and I thought I had to try to keep him behind, and well, it worked.
Well, you say difficult to overtake, but I behind you, there was a whole lot of passes, and Audrius at the start of the race hanging around the outside. Did that surprise you?
Well, Audrius have passed me during the week in every corner in the track, because he started races during the week in the back of the field, and he overtake me on the outside of the left-handers, in the inside on the last turn. He overtakes wherever he wants. He's an alien.
Sounds like he's tough to defend against, but I guess focusing on your racing, you were kind of sliding backwards in results this season. You've jumped back forwards. Was there some difficulties going on, or was it just kind of bad luck that was costing you positions in the first 4 races?
Last race at Barcelona, I did a poor quali. I couldn't finish my second lap, so I was in the middle of the pack, and I did some mistakes. But I think I'm pretty much where I was the last 8-10 months. I'm there. I can try to fight for the podium, but I need some luck.
All right. Well, we'll cross our fingers for you. Congratulations on another second place today.
Thank you, guys. And I want to give a shout out to Oyer, because he was really fast this week with very little training, and this morning he felt a lot of pain in the foot, and he couldn't race. It's very sad, because I think he could have fought Audrius, but well, let's hope he can join us soon.
Yeah, we hope so as well. So that was Jorge Nieva finishing second today. I think we got one more. It looks like Joey has caught up with Mick Claridge, who's probably got plenty of stories to tell.
Yeah, I think we got Mick Claridge finally down here in the booth. Well, it was a little bit of an up and down day, and you ultimately finished where you qualified.
Yeah, what a race. I'll tell you what, Joey, I mean, if you look at all the races I've had this week, that was by far the best. It's been that bad.
Well, let's just talk about not turn one, but lap one. It seemed like you and Tixier kind of came together at a little bit of a narrow point on the racetrack. That's definitely a choke point, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know what? I look back at it, and on my screen, it was net code. It was slight net code. I mean, it was such a fine line between a net code hit and one of the best, side by sides in one of the toughest corners on the track. So yeah. Nightmare. I understeer, left-handers, understeer, pain. Don't ask me about, when we get here next time and we're at the track before, don't ask me, oh, we're at Sachsenring next week. How do you feel? Don't ask me that.
Well, since we're not before, we are after now. What do you feel about revisiting? Because Nicola loved this place.
I don't mind it. It's just it's taken me all week. It's literally taken me all week to try and not burn up the right front on the car. And I think this is the first race that I was able to manage it. But look where I was. I was in sixth spot, But yeah, I know Nick had a lot of problems with the understeer as well. And literally watching the fast guys up ahead just driving away from me all week, pretty much. So yeah, it was a bit painful, to be honest with you, mate.
Well, I appreciate you coming out and chugging through the pain out here. Thank you so much for coming out and racing. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, everyone that's watching, and big shout out to Nick. Like I say, I was in a lot of pain this week. I was ready to throw the towel in on everything. That was it. I had enough. And Nick kept messaging me, saying, come on, Mick, you can get it back. So I love you, Nick, and I love everyone else in the world.
That was Mick Claridge, looking a little bit fuzzy here today on the camera, but ultimately finishing in 6th place position.
Could use a shave for sure. I think it sounds like we want to do just a quick one with Cam Porter, especially since he had such a good day out there, up 7 from where he started. Cam, I mean, we tried to jump back to show some of the battling in the mid-pack as much as we could, and we did get a little bit of it. It looked like there was just constantly action happening back there.
Yeah, I understand you need to focus on the big battles up front, and that's perfectly fine. I was happy to have a great opening lap. I made up about 9 spots, I think, and then the fast guys that ended up going off early caught up to me and passed me. I didn't give up easy, though. I put up a fight. I mean, I knew it was inevitable. Those guys were going to pass me, but kudos to them. They were patient in trying to pass me, despite the fact that I was, not giving up too easy.
Yeah, it's making up as many spots as you did. What happened in qualifying? Was that kind of ultimate pace for you, or was there a mistake in there that we missed?
No, that was, as you already know, I don't do a lot of practice for these races. I do the 30-minute practice before the race. That's about it. Usually if I get up on Saturday morning, I'm looking at my phone and the iRacing app saying, what track is it this week? So I don't do a lot of practice. So, that's one of the reasons why I'm perfectly average. I just show up and race and don't put too much effort into practicing or anything like that.
Well, I'm sure it keeps the fun in it and keeps everything fresh. Again, excellent job out there, and hopefully we'll get to see you next week at Indy.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
So that was Cam Porter finishing in 25th today, but the number doesn't really tell the whole story. As like I said, he had a lot of great passes to get where he needed to be. A big thanks to the community for bringing us back for a season of coverage once again, of course, and also to the team today, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next race, as I mentioned, it's a big one. They traditionally have at least one oval a season. This time, it's back to Indianapolis, which is kind of what kicked off this whole oval thing for them. And that'll be January 25th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern as usual. Of course, we have other races coming up next with the IMSA Vintage going off to Motorsports at noon Eastern, but we'll have more action later on in the week. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that are listed here. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.